Great fortune, great honor, great privilege to have one of the disciples, one of the students of Prabhupada with us today. Vyapi Prabhu joined and met the devotees in 1973 in Denver. And it's a very, very unusual story that three brothers, all of them came and took initiation from Prabhupada at the same time. His elder brother is Svavas Prabhu. Some of you probably know. He's been the person in charge of the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust and the longest serving temple president in Los Angeles. Another brother is Naikatma Prabhu and himself Vyapi Prabhu. All three devotees came like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami and Jiva Goswami and surrendered at the feet of Prabhupada.
I didn't know.
Vyapi Prabhu has a long history in the service of Prabhupada. He first was serving in Denver. Then he went to India, where he was instrumental in founding our centers in Calcutta. Then he went to Bangladesh, and he would travel with Vyasaki Prabhu into all the villages of Bangladesh, traveling and preaching from village to village. Came back, he was serving in Chicago, started the temple in Madison, Wisconsin. And a long history, but the last 5 years he's been based in New Vrindavan. So New Vrindavan is our community, about 3 hours from here. It's in Wheeling, West Virginia. We have about 25 acres of land, 100 cows, and a palace of gold. So Vyapi Prabhu has been based there with his wife, Rasa Priya Gopi. She's a disciple of Jayapataka Swami. And they met in Denver many years ago. So now he's in New Vrindavan, where his service is to take care of all of the apartments for the devotees. Last year he said, okay, enough is enough. I have given 45 years of my life, and now he's traveling, he's engaging himself in scriptures, and very happy. They came to Columbus today, so he'll be giving a talk on Bhagavad Gita. So let's give a big round of applause for him.
Thank you for that nice reception. Of course, we shouldn't say anything until after the class, because you're a doctor, right? And sometimes a doctor can tell, he checks the tongue, and he sees, well, what kind of disease maybe this person has. So we can also tell by when somebody's speaking what kind of mental disease he has. So we'll do Jai Radha Madhava real quick and get started. Jai Radha Madhava Gunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Gunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Gunja Jai Namaskar Dupare Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyabari Paskatadesha Tarine. So we're going to be reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We'll take one verse from the second chapter, text 41. Before we do that, we'll say a few prayers, the meditations on Bhagavad Gita by Shankaracharya. O Bhagavad Gita, thou hast been instructed to Arjuna, the son of Pritha, by Lord Krishna himself. And afterwards they were included within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyas. Thy 18 divine chapters are a shower of the immortal nectar of the wisdom of the Absolute. O Mother, destroyer of man's rebirth, into the darkness of this mortal world, upon thee I meditate. Obeisances to thee, O Vyas, thou art of mighty intellect, and thine eyes are as large as the petals of a full-blown lotus. It was by thee that the oil-filled lamp of knowledge of the Mahabharata was lit. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Krishna, the refuge of ocean-born Lakshmi, and all who take shelter at his lotus feet. His one hand holds a staff for driving cows, and the other hand is raised, the thumb, touching the tip of the forefinger, indicating divine knowledge. He is the milker of the immortal nectar of the Bhagavad Gita. The Upanishads are as a herd of cows. Lord Krishna, son of a coward, is their milker. Arjuna is the calf. The supreme nectar of the Bhagavad Gita is the milk, and the wise man of purified intellect is the drinker. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the killer of the demons Kamsa and Chanuta, the supreme bliss of Mother Devaki, and the spiritual master of the universe. Of that terrifying river of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, over which the Pandavas victoriously crossed, Bhishma and Drona were its high banks. Jayadratha was the river's water. The king of Gandhara was the blue water lily. There were sharks such as Shalya. Kripa was the current, Karna the mighty waves, Ashwatthama and Vikarna the dreadful alligators, and Duryodhana the very whirlpool. But Lord Krishna was the ferryman. May the spotless lotus of the words of Vyas, that grow in the eternal waters of the words of Lord Hari, with its filaments of various tales of heroes, and which is richly endowed with the sweet fragrance of the explanations of the Bhagavad Gita, its nectar being quaffed with pleasure daily in this world by saintly persons who are compared to so many nectar-seeking bumblebees, and which destroys all the sins of the age of Kali. May this spotless lotus of the Mahabharata bestow upon us the highest good. So, we should understand the spiritual master, especially Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya. I think most people here probably have never seen him in person, but that's okay, because just like a king, when a king dies, what happens? His reign is finished. He's gone. But when a saintly person dies, his reign just begins. A saintly person, so in one way you may say that we are governed or ruled by the dead. Of course we know they're not dead. But the example, there's a poetic example of just like some stars. They're already burned out, but they don't exist anymore. But their light is still shining. They're so far away that if you look at some of the stars, they may not actually exist anymore. But the light is still shining, and we still see that light. So the saintly persons, their light, their instructions are still shining on us. So I know Srila Prabhupada, before he came to America, he lived in the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan. And it just so happened that he lived right beside Rupa Goswami's samadhi. So it is a fact that Prabhupada received instructions and who knows how many other things from Rupa Goswami, from his samadhi. So if you go and we go to the samadhis, we go to the holy places, and we pray to the saintly persons, and we still get their energy. We can still get their blessings. So this is why, and we need that, of course. This is our lifeblood. What are the 3 ways to get mercy?
First is touching the lotus feet of the spirit of devotee.
The lotus feet. We get the dust. 3 things that are very powerful in spiritual life. You get the dust from the devotees. So you, by hook or by crook. What's another thing?
Mahaprasadam.
The prashadam, or mahaprasadam. Prashadam means mercy. So to get the prashadam is very powerful, another powerful thing. You may say, well, it's just ordinary food. No, it's surcharged. It's been offered. It's just like just like copper wire is just ordinary wire, but when it's hooked up to electricity, it becomes electrified. So anything that's offered to the Lord becomes spiritualized. So it has spiritual energy within it, even though it's an ordinary apple or an ordinary flower. It's more than that. And what's the other thing?
Water.
Charanamrita, the water that has dust, that has bathed the deities or the spiritual master. It used to be when I first joined, Prabhupada came to Denver one time. So he came in 1975. So this was a big occasion for us. We all went to the airport to meet Prabhupada. At that time, there was not, think how things changed so quickly. Anybody could go to the airport all the way to the terminal. So we all went to meet Prabhupada, and I was fortunate enough, I was right in front of Prabhupada. There were many sannyasis. I was just a brand new devotee, but I was able to strew rose petals in front of Prabhupada. And there was another person that would throw rose water. So all the way to the concourse, you can imagine how long that was in Denver. There were rose petals. I can imagine what the janitor or the people were thinking. Prabhupada came at that time, and we were fortunate to take his darshan. And I never met Prabhupada that many times. And that's not always that important to be. It's nice to get to do personal service to the Guru, but it's not necessary. As we all know, there's Vani and Vapu. You get to do bodily service, or you get the instructions. So Prabhupada always said the instructions is more important than the personal association. And actually, in some ways, if you're not that advanced, so to speak, or careful, you can get into a lot of trouble by associating with a pure devotee too closely. Because we have that tendency to bring things down to our level, so to speak. In other words, you may take him to be an ordinary person, or that familiarity creeps in, and you take him for granted. So the spiritual master, his association should be careful. Even whoever your spiritual master is, don't get too close, because it's like fire. If you're too close, you get burnt. And then fire, if you're too far away, you don't get the heat. So there has to be a respectable distance to the spiritual master. So we should have that consciousness. So I was never ever able to get very close to Prabhupada. At that time, everybody wanted to be real close, and usually it's the sannyasis that were always around Prabhupada and God is. But one time I got to go on a morning walk with him in Denver, and I remember this one devotee, he was joined about the same time, new devotee. He said, "I'm going to ask Prabhupada a question when I get a chance, with this." So we were taking a walk, and sannyasis were asking questions, and there was a little lull, and his name was Panchanand. He decided to interject at that time, and he said, "Prabhupada, what is the purpose of controlling your senses?" And Prabhupada stopped, and he turned around and said, "Don't you read my books?" Every page, I have it, every word. And you should read the books, he said. He said, "Why are you asking these questions? Read the books." And I was kind of snickering. I said, "Well, I'm glad I didn't ask him." So, of course, it's mercy to get chastised also. If you're a real smart person, you'll chastise yourself. I think, have you ever chastised yourself? Yeah, that's a good thing, good habit to get into before everybody else does it. Chastise yourself, try to make yourself better. So, get on your own case. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take verse 241 from Bhagavad Gita. The print on this book is so small I can't see it. But
Somebody can pass it.
that's okay. I got my glasses, so I'll be able to see it. Anyway, I'm just going to read it really quickly. Okay, 241. Yavasa yagmika bujir ekeha kurunandana bahu shaki anantascha mitayo vyavasayanam. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. So, a book like Bhagavad Gita, there's so many books. I imagine everybody's read probably hundreds of books, if not thousands of books in your life. So you should understand, some books are meant to be maybe tasted. You read a book, you put it down, that's the end of that book. Some books, you might want to chew on them a little bit. Try to get a little flavor out of them. And then there's some books that you may want to even go further, and you might actually want to swallow them. So you may want to swallow some knowledge and get the juice, get the strength from those books. So Bhagavad Gita, it's association. These words that are written in here are like, you might say, frozen thought. In other words, by associating with this book, you're actually associating with Krishna directly. Krishna's right here in these books. It's just like amber. Everybody knows what amber is, and sometimes you'll see an insect inside that amber, and it's perfectly preserved. And now that insect that's in that amber may be thousands of years old, and you'll see, wow, the insects in those days were quite large or whatever. So the knowledge is frozen here in these books. It's thousands of years old, and Krishna is speaking directly to you through these books. And sometimes it's even better to get, because this book is not going to chastise you. If you do something wrong, it's not going to get on your case. You can read it, you can put it aside anytime, or you can pick it up anytime you want, and it's there for you. And it doesn't change. It's not like one day that this is saying something and the next day it's going to say something else. So especially in Kali Yuga, the books are very important. So we encourage everybody to please try to read these, because it's like anything, the more it's about practice and habit. You know, just like you're a doctor. He was a doctor, he's gone now. But everybody has a job on the outside. And that means you're going to associate with people that have different mentalities. Now, the problem with that is it's just like if you're going out to kill monsters, you have to make sure you don't become a monster. You see, just like police, they have to deal with criminals. They could also become corrupted, and the police can also become corrupted. Or a doctor, he has to treat so many patients, but he's got to be careful he doesn't catch that disease. So he's got to inoculate himself. So we have our spiritual practices that are very important. It's kind of like an inoculation, so that you can go out and face the world without succumbing to it. You may be a nice devotee this year, and maybe it's by some bad association, you get influenced, and then you fall down. So you can fall down at any moment. So especially you have to have a very powerful, this program this morning program that we have, of chanting, Mangal Arti, doing puja, reading Shastra. This is not whimsical. If you don't do these things, you will also fall down. You see, you shouldn't think. In other words, you should have a healthy fear of Maya. There's nothing wrong with having a little fear. Maya is all powerful. You see, so we have to have a nice, strong. In other words, you have to push yourself. And if you do this every day, it's just like anything. If you want to get muscles, then every day you exercise. And inevitably, you're going to get some muscles. If you want to be good at anything, you practice. You just keep doing it, and you're going to get better at it. So spiritual life is also like that. We're performing sadhana bhakti. Sadhana means devotional service in practice. You see? So this is so very important. Getting back to the verse, Vyavasayatmika buddhir. Our intelligence, our minds have to be focused. I was in the Army back in 1971. And what is the first word of command? Does anybody know? Anybody here been in the Army? You're lucky. So the first word of command is ten hut, attention. That's the first thing they want from you. Attention. So if first you have to hear properly. If you don't hear properly, you will not understand properly. If you hear properly, you will understand properly. So there's a maxim in the army of march divided, fight concentrated. In other words, if you want to break through the enemy lines, you have to focus your energy on one point so you can break through. So, or it's just like a magnifying glass. Everybody, when you were a little kid, you used to play with a magnifying glass, right? So when you have a magnifying glass, you see the sunbeams come through that magnifying glass, and it concentrates the energy. And it becomes so powerful that it can burn whatever you focus it on. So you want to utilize all your energy, concentrate all your energy, Krishna is saying, on one. You have to be single-minded. In other words, you have to be like a bulldog running after a cat. If you've ever seen a bull, every fiber of its muscle and concentration is focused on chasing that cat. Yeah, so we kind of, in one sense, you might say, we have to be so focused on what we want to do, which is to become Krishna conscious, that to an ordinary person, they would think that you're mad. Basically. That kind of concentration almost. So we have to focus all our energy and our efforts in this way, because it depends how serious you are, see? So if you're serious, and this is a very serious business, this is practically life and death. We're talking about life and death. This is why one thing is, you should concentrate on death every day, at least once a day. Why? Well, because when you think about death, you have this tendency to, well, if I'm going to die, maybe I should prepare myself, you see. That's one good thing about thinking about death. You have this, you sense this urgency that I should try to do something, the best to my best ability. So you have this more of an urgency to prepare yourself, you see. And preparation of anything is half the job is done. Just like if I was going to tell you, okay, this man right here, he's going to become the President of the United States on the 20th of January. You would say, wait a minute, I'm not ready. You know, even if you gave me the job right now, I'm not ready. Forget it. I can't handle it, you see. So it's like that in anything. If right now somebody was going to give you, let's say, a CEO of some big company, unless you're trained, unless you're prepared, that's not going to do you any good. So we have to prepare ourselves for death. So when they say that, well, sometimes people are very concerned with their IQs. Well, I'm not intelligent enough. I don't know if I can. But in spiritual life, your desire is the most important thing. In other words, instead of IQ, it should be I will. You see, because many things are based on desire. Just like if you want to do something, then it's much easier to do it. But if you don't want to do something, then, well, what's that saying? Those people who don't want to do something find an excuse. And those who want to do something find a way. You see, that's the difference. So, a lot of times, one thing about us, we're so inert that we don't change unless there's a necessity. This is how, I don't know if it's laziness or just no willpower or what. We don't do anything unless we need to. If there's a need to do something, then we change. Otherwise, we just go on and on the way we usually do. So we have to feel, how bad do you want Krishna? How bad do you want to become Krishna conscious? That's called lolyam lalasamai. The intense eagerness. How bad do you want Krishna? When there's no other interest at that time, then we'll be able to change our consciousness to Krishna consciousness. And then, of course, if we love something, then that is the easiest thing. Then it's not work anymore, it's This is the Raganuga platform, actually, where you want to serve Krishna, where you love to serve Krishna. So that state is, of course, what we're trying to get. Therefore, in Sri Shiksha Samritam, Lord Chaitanya prays like that, isn't it? What's that verse? Where he says, when will tears... How's it go?
Nayanam gada shrudhare, vadanam gada rudhaya tira, pulakaya nishtam vapu gada, tavanama grani bhavishyati.
What's the translation?
When will my eyes be decorated with tears of love while chanting the holy names? When will my voice choke up? And when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of the name?
So Prabhupada said the culmination of Krishna consciousness is the shedding of the tears. In other words, just like when it rains, what does it do? It softens the earth. The earth becomes softened by rain. So our hearts, they become softened by crying for the Lord. So we want to soften our heart. That's why when you chant or you do devotional service, put your heart and soul into it also. In other words, try to bring in your feelings into it. Otherwise, what happens is you do things automatically. Just like I was saying in the beginning, hearing. Hearing is the most important thing, but there's different types of hearing. Just like I hear things involuntarily. In other words, things are going through, but they don't take hold. Somebody might be talking over there, over here, and it just goes right through me. But to focus on the hearing with rapt attention, don't just hear with your ears. In other words, I was just thinking, devotees, if you have big ears, you're very fortunate in spiritual life. The thing that's wanted is big ears and a short tongue. If you have big ears and a short tongue, you're doing good. So we should hear with our eyes. We should hear with our entire body. That kind of concentration. Because it'll grab a hold of you. You'll be able to. This is sometimes they say, why are some people, they seem more intelligent than other people. They seem to be able to, understand things. That's because they have this great power of hearing properly. You see, that's what sets them apart. Most of us, we hear, but we're either thinking about something else, or most of it is going through us, you see. So there's many different factors that are involved. So how to hear with the most intense gravity that it's possible. See, so I was also thinking as far as this crying for Krishna, there's two types of people that can cry very easily. Does anybody know who those two people are?
Babies.
Babies and old people. So it's just like you might say, just like the dew, it comes usually at dusk or dawn. So at dusk and dawn you have the dew that comes on the ground. So old people and babies, they have this tendency to cry much easier. So anyway, I want to keep it. They say when you give class, it should be brief, be bright, and then be gone. So I'm going to try to end class here. What time is it? Well, let's ask questions right now. Maybe somebody has some. Yes.
You were in army, and army requires a lot of discipline, as you say, that march divided and fight concentrated. Is that something helped you to advance in spiritual life?
Yes, discipline is
What type is?
discipline is of utmost important. In fact, that's where disciple comes from. Disciple comes from the word discipline. And if you don't, this is one thing we had in common when I was growing up with our father. We were a little disciplined, so my brothers were able to also take up the process and become austere. We should be austere with ourselves and discipline ourselves, of course. And if you can't take instructions, then you can't be helped. That's the prerequisite. You have to be able to take instructions to be able to help. This is why I don't just use my head. I use Prabhupada's head. I use Krishna's head. There's many heads that I use. You might say, I'm kind of like Lord Brahma. I have a lot of heads that I'm using, you see. So if you just depend on yourself, well, I know best, then you're very limited. You're very limited. But if you want to expand your mind, then you have to get knowledge from other places. So, yes.
I have one more question. Because you made Prabhupada and all of your three brothers gone to the same way. Is that something he's divine? He was not very good-looking, handsome person, but is it as divine look or the way he talked? What kind of thing attracted all three of you?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I never meditated so much upon that, but just use this as an example. If your life is light, then your words become thunder, so to speak. In other words, there's a certain, if you live according to this, when you hear from the spiritual, from a highly elevated soul, the same words, there's more power behind those words. Just like there's many, I can say so many nice things, but I may not live those things. Everything that I say doesn't mean I'm on that platform. Just like there's that little poem. Preachers can talk but never speak unless they practice what they preach. So there's a certain potency that Prabhupada, just like I was taking drugs with my brothers up to the day that we joined. And the minute I joined, never again did I smoke cigarettes, drink, or take any kind of drugs. Immediately. In fact, 2 or 3 years later, I would have dreams of I was smoking. And then I'd wake up, wow, I thought I was smoking. And I wasn't smoking. You see? So, to me, how could somebody do that? Some people they try over and over again, and they can't stop these things. And this is just an example. So the potency, if you hear properly and it's not just sometimes we always think, oh, I want to find a qualified spiritual master. But we don't always think that, am I a qualified disciple? You see, it works both ways. You see, you also have to be qualified. It's not just the spiritual master. You see, so if you're very, very sincere, then you have these two things that come together, and it produces some enlightenment. You see.
So you say that. So you burnt out. You got to that closeness that burnt you all three of you.
Yeah.
You say not to go too close to your spiritual master.
Right. Yeah, we just come close in other ways, you know, that's... So the main thing is to follow the instruction of the spiritual master. That's more important, because then you're actually connected to the spiritual master. Is anybody? Yes?
Vyapi Prabhu, one question. In the life of a spiritual practitioner, despite knowing the philosophy, there are certain unearthals or certain shortcomings you are not able to overcome. And I don't know, would you give any advice as how to psychologically deal with that, and how to continue to still make progress?
Yes. Well, it's what Rupa Goswami stated himself. 6 items favorable for devotional service, to achieve your goal. 1, to be enthusiastic. 2, to endeavor with confidence. 3, to be patient. We all lack patience. Just like nature thrives on patience. Just like if you gotta wait before the flowers come. You gotta wait till the winter's over, then you gotta plant the seed, then it grows. Nature takes its time, you can't push it. You know, you get a cut, it takes time, it's going to heal, but you have to have patience. What's that saying? Patience is bitter, but the fruit is sweet. So you have to have patience. You have to have enthusiasm for what you're doing. If you're just doing I got to chant today, I got to go to Artik. And if you find it like that, then you're dragging yourself. But enthusiasm is just like if you have a locomotive, it weighs 50 tons. It can't go anywhere unless you have steam. And when you have that steam, then that huge locomotive moves. So that's the same in your life. Without enthusiasm, you can't move. You're just inert. I don't want to do that. It's too, you don't have the motivation. So you have to have enthusiasm and determination. You have to have determination, and that determination comes from specifically following the previous acharyas, abandoning the association of non-devotees, following the regulated principles. All these things matter. If you let one of them, if you're lax in one of them, that's a loophole. It's just like a ship. A big ship, it can be surrounded by water, but it doesn't sink. It goes smoothly. But if that huge ship even has a few leaks, eventually that big thing will sink. You see? So you have to have everything. This is like your armor. It's just like if you're going to go to war or to work, you have to sharpen your tools. There's that Aesop's fable. Everybody remembers Aesop. There was this boar that was sharpening its tusks, and a rabbit came around and said, "Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that right now? There's no danger." He says, "Well, it behooves me to not sharpen my tusks at the time when there is danger. You got to do it before that. You see, so you got to prepare yourself. You got to be ready. So you have to make yourself ready, just like a boxer or a fighter. He practices and practices, and he hones his skills. And then if somebody punches him, he doesn't get knocked out usually. He gets back up because he's fit. But if you're a wimp or you're not trained, somebody punches you once, you're out of the game, you see? So this is our practice, our spiritual practice, to make us strong, to become stronger. And of course, all these things that we do, it doesn't guarantee success, but it gives us the best chance for success. Ultimately, we need the mercy of Guru and Krishna, you see. Because spiritual life, it's not like if you do this, then you get this. This spiritual life is all in the realm of Krishna's sweet will. You may even do a few things wrong, and Krishna may let you into his association. So the main thing is we always want to get to mercy, of course, but at the same time, we do everything within our power. It's just like the example, right? The sparrow wanted to drink the ocean to get its eggs back because the ocean took its eggs, and it's a joke. You can't. The sparrow can't drink the ocean dry. But when Garuda comes and threatens, then of course it's a different ballgame. So when Krishna helps you, then there's nothing that you can't do. In other words, one on Krishna's side is the majority. If you're on Krishna's side, you're the majority. Okay, anything else? Yes.
So first is a comment and next is a question. The comment is, so he said, unless we cry, the babies and old people cry, right? Unless we cry and develop that feeling to cry for Krishna, so it's very difficult, hard enough. However, the other side of it is a discipline, which actually the disciple discipline goes the processes, practices like following this, reading here, and doing all those things. But eventually, what happens? It becomes like a proud and hard heart, and then and disciplines makes result oriented, task oriented, but the essence is gone, and then we may deviate it. Eventually, that leak starts.
Yeah.
And the kavacha, whatever the shield we have, is eventually started fragile. So now, how do we balance it? Because without discipline, we cannot get there. Without discipline, it also leads to the hard-hearted, and there is no development.
Right.
Crying for Krishna.
Yeah, Rupa Goswami in Magna, where follow the rules and regulations only for the sake of following them, or rejecting scriptural rules and regulations and acting whimsically or independently. In other words, just like I was putting a roof on my house, if you don't hit the nail right on the head, it bends, or it goes in a different direction, and then you lose the effectiveness. So we can bend, or we can go into a different direction. This is why we always have to. What I would say on that, one thing that I can say, I'm sure there's many things, we'll see if anybody has some more to add, but you should always have somebody that you can look up to give you instructions. If you think that, oh, I know better than this or that person, and you don't have anybody to confide in, then you're in a very dangerous position, because then you'll think that there's nobody to check you. There's got to be a check and balance system. So many devotees became gurus in our movement, and they went in a different direction. You see, so if we can have that association where somebody can, this is why there's, even in spiritual life, there is a guru, shastra, and sadhu, check and balance. Is the shastra saying this? Is the guru saying this? Are this previous sadhus saying this? And you can check yourself in this way and that way. But one of the things, be humble. If you stay humble, you won't stumble. You see, so this is the main thing. If the foundation of a building is solid, the lowest part, then the rest of the building can go up very nicely. But if the foundation is to be humble. We have to learn how to be humble. And it's very hard, especially if you think you're smart. It's hard to be humble. It's just like, it's easy to be humble if you know that you don't have nothing going for you. I'm a loser, it's easy for me. But if you, let's say you're a billionaire, let's say you're very smart, let's say you're the most beautiful girl. It's very hard to be humble. You see, you look around, nobody looks as good as me. It's tough, very tough. to be humble. You see, so sometimes we can, in spiritual life, you can become proud. Oh, I know more than, I know this. I'm Paka. I'm Paka devotee. You're finished. You see? So, always keep yourself humble. And one of the ways to do that is just like if you see a plant. As long as the plant is green, it's always growing. But as soon as the plant flowers and it's gone through its maturity stage, the next stage is it starts getting rotten. So always keep yourself green. In other words, you're never quite there all the time. You always got to keep going up and up. You just keep growing all the time. So deviation, it's easy to deviate. It's easy to deviate. It can happen to anybody. This is why we stay in association with devotees, so that they can help us out when we're going through problems, etc. And association is so important because it's, you know, as we say, the law of association, you become like the things that you associate with. Eventually, things rub off on you. Things rub off on you. So keep in the association of devotees. And like I said, you have to go out there and you got a job, you got to do so many things. Make sure you're inoculated. Make sure you have a program. Make sure you do Tulsi Puja every day. Because, you know, without Tulsi's mercy, we can't get close to Krishna. So force yourself. At the beginning, force yourself. You know, push yourself. Yes.
So I had a question. So this verse says that though the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. So you had been doing one service for many years, and then you recently changed. So probably many devotees would want you to do many different things. There are many different things, each of which is a kind of devotional service. How did you choose what you would do among many possible services?
Well, one thing you'll know in life, you can't stop change. Everything changes day to day. I remember when I first joined, and then I look at the movement now. The movement has changed. Things have changed. In fact, a lot of devotees come, oh, I wish it was like in the back old days, in the good old days, you know, when I wasn't old or good. But things are always constantly changing, so you're also changing. We're either maturing or whatever. So according to our mentality or our ability, just like, you know, I'm getting older, now I'm 69, so it's, you're limited in some of the things that you can do. And then of course, we all have desires, and it's the main thing is learn how to dovetail those desires, because you may have certain propensities. Everybody's got, like, some people like music, some art, some like to do this or that, you know. So it's just about channeling your abilities or your desires in such a way that you can actually still be engaged in service. Mm-hmm. That's a small way of saying this. Do you have anything to add to that? Do you have anything to add to that? Yeah, so there's many, many different things, you know, we all come from different, just like when I read these books. Now, I have a certain understanding of that book, and somebody may read the same verse, and they have a slightly different take on it. Because why? Because everything that we read filters through our brain, our consciousness. So, if somebody is very, very intelligent, they have a deeper insight of what they just read. And somebody that, this is why in some ways when I read Bhagavad Gita and I give an understanding, I'm not actually doing justice to the Bhagavad Gita, because the book is higher than I am. So I'm actually, by reading it and giving my understanding of it, I'm actually, in some ways, lowering it, lowering the understanding of that book. See, so of course it's good to get perspective and to get different ideas, and then, you know, try to elevate that consciousness of it. So, it's alive, it's changing, everything, things are changing constantly, and hopefully they're becoming broader. Just like, what's that saying? You flatten yourself and then you broaden yourself at the same time, so to speak. Is that it then? It's 12:30, it's time for... I thank you very much for allowing me to come here and speaking about
So,
that.
Vyapi Prabhu, we do have a request. You're based in New Vrindavan, and your service is traveling and preaching. We'd like you to come more times and spend more time. So what we'll do now?
Well, it's, you know the reason Santa Claus is popular, don't you? He comes once a year.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta